Welcome. Today we're diving into the world of bilateral agreements. These are deals made between two parties, often countries or organizations, to promote cooperation and mutual benefit. Bilateral agreements can cover a wide range of topics, from trade and investment to security and environmental protection. Understanding their benefits and challenges is crucial in today's interconnected world. In this video, we'll break down what bilateral agreements are, why they matter, and how they shape relationships on the global stage. Let's start by exploring the basics before moving on to the specific advantages and hurdles these agreements present. Bilateral agreements are formal arrangements between two parties, usually countries, aiming to achieve specific objectives. These agreements can be legally binding or informal depending on the context. They often focus on areas like trade, defense, or cultural exchange. By establishing clear terms, both sides know what to expect and how to cooperate. This clarity helps prevent misunderstandings and set the stage for a productive partnership. As we move forward, let's look at the main benefits these agreements can offer to the involved parties. One of the most significant benefits of bilateral agreements is the promotion of trade. By reducing tariffs and other barriers, these deals make it easier for goods and services to flow between the two parties. This can lead to increased exports, more competitive prices, and greater consumer choice. For businesses, bilateral agreements open up new markets and create opportunities for growth. For consumers, they often mean access to a wider variety of products at lower prices. Next, let's see how these agreements can also encourage investment. Bilateral agreements often include provisions that protect and encourage investment. By providing legal certainty and reducing risks, these deals make it more attractive for companies to invest in each other's markets. This can lead to job creation, technology transfer, and economic development. Investors feel more confident knowing their rights are protected, which can result in increased capital flows and stronger economic ties. Now, let's examine how bilateral agreements can foster stronger political relationships. Beyond economics, bilateral agreements can strengthen political relationships. By working together on shared interests, countries build trust and understanding. These agreements often serve as a foundation for broader cooperation, making it easier to resolve disputes and coordinate on global issues. Strong political ties can lead to more stable and predictable international relations, benefiting both parties in the long run. Next, let's look at how bilateral agreements can address specific challenges unique to the parties involved. One advantage of bilateral agreements is their flexibility. Unlike multilateral deals, which involve many parties, bilateral agreements can be tailored to address the unique needs and priorities of the two sides. This customization allows for more effective solutions to specific problems, whether it's trade imbalances, security concerns, or environmental issues. By focusing on what matters most to each party, these agreements can deliver targeted benefit. Now, let's consider the challenge of negotiating these deals. Negotiating a bilateral agreement can be complex and time-consuming. Both parties must carefully consider their interests and find common ground. This process often involves detailed discussions, compromise, and sometimes tough bargaining. The complexity increases when sensitive issues are involved, such as intellectual property or labor standards. Despite these challenges, successful negotiations can lead to strong, mutually beneficial agreement. Next, we'll discuss the issue of power imbalances in bilateral deals. Power imbalances can be a significant challenge in bilateral agreements. When one party is much larger or more powerful, it may have greater influence over the terms of the deal. This can lead to agreements that favor the stronger party, potentially disadvantaging the other. Smaller countries or organizations must be especially careful to protect their interests during negotiations. Let's move on to how bilateral agreements can sometimes create trade diversion. While bilateral agreements can boost trade between the two parties, they may also cause trade diversion. This happens when trade shifts away from more efficient producers outside the agreement, simply because the deal makes it cheaper to trade with the partner. As a result, overall economic efficiency can suffer. Policymakers must weigh these risks when designing bilateral agreements. Next, let's look at the administrative burden these deals can create. Implementing and managing bilateral agreements can be administratively demanding. Each deal comes with its own set of rules, procedures, and documentation requirements. For governments and businesses, keeping track of multiple bilateral agreements can be challenging and resource-intensive. This complexity can sometimes offset the benefits, especially for smaller organizations with limited capacity. Now, let's discuss how bilateral agreements can impact third parties. Bilateral agreements can sometimes negatively affect countries or organizations not involved in the deal. For example, trade preferences given to one partner may put others at a disadvantage. This can lead to tensions or even retaliation. Policymakers need to consider these broader impacts when negotiating bilateral agreements. Next, let's explore how these deals can promote innovation and knowledge sharing. Bilateral agreements can foster innovation by encouraging collaboration in research, technology, and education. When two parties share knowledge and resources, they can develop new solutions to common challenges. This cooperation can lead to breakthroughs that benefit both sides and even have a global impact. Now, let's look at how these agreements can help address regulatory differences. Bilateral agreements often include efforts to harmonize regulations, making it easier for businesses to operate across borders. By aligning standards and procedures, both parties can reduce costs and increase efficiency. This harmonization can be especially important in sectors like pharmaceuticals, food safety, and environmental protection. Next, let's discuss how bilateral agreements can enhance security cooperation. Security is another area where bilateral agreements can make a big difference. By working together, countries can address shared threats such as terrorism, cybercrime, or organized crime. These agreements often include joint training, intelligence sharing, and coordinated operations. Enhanced security cooperation helps both parties respond more effectively to challenges. Now, let's see how bilateral agreements can support sustainable development. Bilateral agreements can support sustainable development by including provisions on environmental protection, labor rights, and social responsibility. By setting shared goals, both parties can work together to promote economic growth that is also socially and environmentally responsible. This cooperation can help address global challenges like climate change and inequality. Next, let's look at the risk of dependency in bilateral relationships. One challenge of bilateral agreements is the risk of dependency. If one party becomes too reliant on the other for trade, investment, or security, it may lose leverage and flexibility. This dependency can make it harder to pursue independent policies or respond to changing circumstances. Policymakers must balance the benefits of cooperation with the need for self-reliance. Now, let's discuss how bilateral agreements can adapt to change. Bilateral agreements can be more adaptable than multilateral ones. With only two parties involved, it's often easier to update or renegotiate terms as circumstances change. This flexibility allows the agreement to remain relevant and effective over time. However, both sides must be willing to engage in ongoing dialogue and cooperation. Next, let's explore the transparency of bilateral agreements. Transparency can be a concern with bilateral agreements, as negotiations and terms are often less visible to the public compared to multilateral deals. This lack of openness can lead to misunderstandings or opposition from stakeholders who feel excluded from the process. Ensuring transparency and public engagement is important for building trust and support. Now, let's look at how bilateral agreements can influence global governance. Bilateral agreements can shape global governance by setting standards and practices that others may follow. When two influential parties reach an agreement, it can serve as a model for future deals or even influence international norms. However, too many bilateral agreements can fragment the global system, making coordination more difficult. Policymakers must consider these broader implications. Next, let's discuss dispute resolution mechanisms in bilateral agreement. Effective dispute resolution is a key feature of many bilateral agreements. These mechanisms provide a structured way to address disagreements and prevent conflicts from escalating. Common approaches include arbitration, mediation, or joint committees. Clear dispute resolution procedures help maintain trust and ensure the agreement's long-term success. Now, let's examine the role of public opinion in shaping bilateral agreement. Public opinion can play a significant role in the negotiation and implementation of bilateral agreements. Support from citizens and stakeholders can make it easier to reach and enforce deals, while opposition can create obstacles. Governments often engage in public consultations or information campaigns to build support. Next, let's look at how bilateral agreements can be used as stepping stones to broader cooperation. Bilateral agreements can serve as stepping stones to broader, multilateral cooperation. By building trust and demonstrating success on a smaller scale, these deals can pave the way for larger, more inclusive agreements. This gradual approach can help overcome barriers and build momentum for global solutions. Now, let's discuss the importance of monitoring and evaluation in bilateral agreements. Ongoing monitoring and evaluation are essential for the success of bilateral agreements. By tracking progress and assessing outcomes, both parties can identify areas for improvement and ensure the agreement remains effective. Regular reviews also help address new challenges as they arise. Next, let's look at the role of technology in facilitating bilateral agreements. Technology plays an increasingly important role in facilitating bilateral agreements. Digital tools can streamline negotiations, improve communication, and enhance transparency. Online platforms make it easier to share information and manage complex agreements. As technology evolves, it will continue to shape how bilateral deals are made and implemented. Now, let's discuss the importance of cultural understanding. Cultural understanding is vital for successful bilateral agreements. Differences in language, customs, and business practices can create misunderstandings or obstacles. By investing in cultural awareness and sensitivity, both parties can build stronger relationships and avoid potential pitfalls. This foundation of mutual respect is key to long-term cooperation. Next, let's look at the role of legal frameworks. Strong legal framework underpins effective bilateral agreements. Clear laws and regulations provide certainty and protect the rights of both parties. Legal frameworks also help resolve disputes and ensure compliance. Without a solid legal foundation, agreements may be difficult to enforce or sustain. Now, let's discuss the importance of flexibility in bilateral deals. Flexibility is a key advantage of bilateral agreements. With only two parties, it's easier to adapt terms to changing circumstances or new priorities. This adaptability helps ensure the agreement remains relevant and beneficial over time. However, both sides must be willing to communicate openly and make adjustments as needed. Next, let's look at the importance of trust in bilateral relationships. Trust is the foundation of any successful bilateral agreement. Without trust, cooperation can break down and disputes may arise. Building trust takes time and requires transparency, consistency, and a willingness to address concerns. When both parties trust each other, they're more likely to achieve lasting, mutually beneficial outcomes. Now, let's summarize the key points we've covered. Recap: bilateral agreements offer many benefits. They promote trade and investment, strengthen political ties, foster innovation, and provide tailored solutions to specific challenges. Their flexibility and adaptability make them a valuable tool for international cooperation. However, they also come with challenges, such as negotiation complexity, power imbalances, and administrative burdens. Understanding both sides is essential for making the most of these agreements. Conclusion: bilateral agreements are powerful tools for building partnerships and addressing shared challenges. While they offer significant benefits, it's important to be aware of their limitations and potential risks. By approaching these agreements thoughtfully and strategically, parties can maximize their advantages and minimize drawbacks. As the world continues to change, bilateral agreements will remain an important part of international relations. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of bilateral agreements.